Okay, let's call this meeting to order.
Like that.
Okay, would you take attendance?
Sure. Member Payas? Member Massey, absent. Member Gilwain?
Present.
Member Maggio?
Present.
Member Lopez Hernandez?
Present.
Member Olson?
Present.
Member Christopher? And Member Crowitz?
Here.
Accept them.
Okay, yeah. Did you want to present the minutes for acceptance?
Yes, please.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes from the last meeting, please say aye.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion.
Second it.
I got you.
Aye.
Aye.
Member Gilwain?
Yes.
Member Lopez Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Olson?
Yes.
Member Maggio?
Yes.
Member Crowitz? To accept the minutes.
I wasn't here, so I can't.
Okay,
Yeah.
you saw them.
Yeah. Okay, the first case we're going to listen to tonight is Grandview Avenue, parcel 067-745-032.
Case number 10133 Grandview Avenue, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 067745032. Jill Ernesto Perez Larios, 18 Lafayette Park, Lynn, Mass. 01902, ZBA 10133. To vary pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, the provisions of the City of Lynn Zone Ordinance to the construction of a single-family home with a so-called accessory dwelling unit, ADU, on a vacant lot with less than the required square footage, 5,841 square feet, where 6,000 square feet is required. The dwelling and the garage ADU are proposed to be built within a 10-foot front side yard setback and a parking stall within 5 feet of the street. The variance request requires the Zoning Board of Appeals to specifically find the, owing to the circumstances related to the soil condition, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and specifically affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zone district in which it's located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance.
I just wanna ask her for a few more minutes. My architect, she's running late, so I don't know if I
So you
can wait.
want continuance?
Yes,
Oh, how long do you think?
she said she's coming soon, but I can tell you, you can wait or we can postpone it, whatever it is.
Why don't we go ahead and postpone it 2 weeks so that she's not in such a big.
I-
You don't think you'll have it
How about April 7th, April 21st?
April 21st?
And she coming now is what you said?
She's on the way, yeah, she said she'll be here in a few minutes, so.
Okay.
Oh, is he going to present tonight?
So she's ready to present?
I don't think she's 100% ready because that project takes like 6 weeks to get done, so
So we need to postpone it anyway if she's not ready.
I don't think she's ready, to be honest there.
Okay.
So do you want to set a date for the postponement or do you want to wait until she gets
Look at the
here?
date.
If it is a month from today, I'll be fine with that.
We can do February 17th or March 3rd, March
2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks.
So we to show.
Okay, what about that one? No, that one. March 17th? Okay.
Yeah, just take a name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Gil Perez, 18 Lafayette Park, Lake Mass, 01902.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to continue until what?
March 17th.
March 17th?
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second. there were a number of things we had asked, or we had
Yeah.
concerns about, so I assume you take the time to pull all that together.
It's one of them is take like 6 weeks to get down. So we hired someone who's doing it, but I don't think it's ready yet.
Okay.
Here, in case you don't have it, it's right there, what they're looking for.
Okay.
At a minimum, I'm sure we'll have more questions when you submit
Okay.
your information.
Yeah. All right. So we'll postpone it.
Yeah.
Till the 20, till 17th.
Till 17th
of March.
March.
Right, okay. Roll call, roll call.
Yep. Need a roll
Okay.
call.
Member Gilrain,
Yes to continue.
member Lopez Hernandez.
Yes, to continue.
Member Olson,
Yes, to continue.
member Maggio,
Yes, to continue.
member Crowell.
Yes, to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next continued case we'll hear will be 79 Johnson Street, Lynn, Massachusetts.
Case number 10134, 79 Johnson Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 069643035. Bill J. Andrio, the JFK Realty Trust, 21 Gilway Street, Saugus, Mass. 01906, by his attorney Sam Vitale, ZBA 10134. To vary pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10 and Section 6. The provisions of the City of Lynn Zone Ordinance Lynn Zone Ordinance Section 5C to permit the alteration of a non-conforming accessory structure with less than the required rear yard and minimum left side yard with impervious lot coverage to be less than 80%. As an additional dwelling unit on a lot containing 6,687 square feet in the R3 district with an existing single family thereon. The variance request requires the Zone Board of Appeals to specifically find that owing to circumstances related to the soil condition, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and specifically affecting such land or structures are not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. A literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance, and find that such change is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm Attorney Vitale. I'm here on behalf of Bill Andreo. If you recall, we asked to have the matter continue because we believe that it would qualify as what's called an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. In order to do that, you have to meet certain criteria. Bill is an experienced builder, but he does not possess what the building department wanted, which is a construction supervisor's license. So they advised him to find an individual who has such a license because there'd be plumbing work and electrical work, and to submit the application under the construction supervisor's license. So we don't have it yet, but I'm pretty confident that when that occurs, it will obviate the need for relief by the Board of Appeals. But I just want to protect his interest, and if you are agreeable, I'd like to get it continued to a later date so that I'll know with a certainty that he got the building permit to do the ADU, which the current zone ordinance and state law says, notwithstanding it's a non-conforming structure that doesn't meet the current dimensional regulations or requirements, it can be used as an ADU provided you do certain steps consistent with what the state law regulation and the local ordinance say. And we think we can satisfy those, but if we're wrong and we need relief, then we'll be back. But so if we put it off for another meeting or two, I don't know what your schedule is, but I think we will have an answer by then.
Is February 17th good for you?
That's 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
Excuse me?
February 17th good for you for 2 weeks?
Why don't we, what's the subsequent? Find something?
March 3rd or 17th?
Okay, March 3rd.
March.
That's safer.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second.
Member Gilwain to continue?
Yes to continue.
Member Maggio to continue?
Yes, to continue.
Member Lopez Hernandez to continue?
Yes, to continue.
Member Olson to continue?
Yes, to continue.
Member Crowitz to continue
Yes.
to March 3rd.
Lose ourselves from this hearing. We have a new case, 206 Ocean Street. Would you read it in for the record? Thank you.
Case number 10135, 206 Ocean, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 093571015. Theodore Coronis, trustee of the Coronis Family Revocable Trust, 206 Ocean Street, Lynn, Mass. 01902, by his attorney, Sam A. Vitale, ZBA 10135. To vary pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3, and Section 10. The provisions of the City of Lynn Zone Ordinance to allow the alteration to a 2.5-story dwelling with less than the required rear yard in part deck with impervious lot coverage greater than the 65% in the R2 district. The variance request requires the Zone Board of Appeal to specifically find that owing to circumstances related to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or the structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it's located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that such desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Anybody here to speak on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Attorney Sam Vitale. I'm here on behalf of Ted Coronis, who's the trustee of the trust that was established for his daughter, who's an individual with disabilities, and that's why the advertisement with respect to referencing Section 3 of the State Zoning Enabling Act, which affords protection for people with recognized handicaps, of which Joy, Ted's daughter, is one. By way of an aside, let me give you some background, which is ironic. Ted adopted Joy when she was 2 years old. He was a missionary in Santiago, Chile during the coup, which I happened to be in Santiago, Chile during the coup, but I didn't adopt a child at that time. And he brought her back to the United States, and it was determined that she had certain profound disabilities, and he's raised her since then with the assistance of adult daycare and others. He put the property, which was unique, it's a irregular shape by geometry teachers in the corner. It's an oblong lot on the corner, and it's unique. It was, for many years, Catholic Charities owned it and used it for a home with individuals who had special needs. When Ted discovered the property, dealing with a priest who was familiar with it, he thought it would be an ideal home because he had other children that he adopted, and this particular individual had special needs. Owned the property until about just over a little year ago. There was a terrible tragedy, which was a huge fire, which caused almost $500,000 in damage. This was a stately Victorian home built in the 1900s, before there was zoning in Lynn, and also before there was the current edition of the state building code. He timely filed to get permits to repair the fire damage and undertook to do that. In the course of that, he dealt with the fire department, the building department, and there was an issue with respect to the egress on the third floor. And the solution that was acceptable to the building department was to take in a deck that was there and raise the elevation of the deck. So while the ad says in part, if you're at the ground level, the deck is within the permitted setback requirement. As you go up, it is not. So we're talking about essentially 2.5 feet. So that's the history of how we got to where the project is at this moment. the building department received complaints from individuals who, on conjecture or speculation, don't know what's really happening. It's a single-family home. They're all related by blood of marriage and kinship. It's being restored from fire damage timely. And the individual who I represent in that trust is afforded the protection of federal law under the Americans with Disabilities Act, under the Fair Housing Act, and under the state Zoning Enabling Act. And so what we're seeking is relief for that 2.5 feet difference. And so in terms of when the building department told him that you would have been okay under the earlier zone ordinance, but under this zone ordinance you need relief, we filed a petition to come before you. You have a set of drawings by a registered architect that shows the work to be done. We submitted to you a petition signed by several neighbors who are in support of the petition. Ted's here as I can speak obviously as he's the trustee, but if you have a kid with special needs, even an adult kid, and I'm familiar, I was very active at one point in my life with Bridgewell. One of the greatest concerns parents have is that when they're no longer there to look after that individual, who will or how? And so many people do what Ted did. They put the property in what's called a community trust. The trust is to benefit that individual. Ted's wife was appointed the guardian of the child by the probate court. The doctors who provide services for this individual indicate that being in the same home that she's in, even after her parents are no longer here, would obviously be better than having her be institutionalized. But in order to do that, we got to satisfy the fire department, which has to satisfy the building department. So we had to have another means of egress from the third floor. That egress is like 12.5, is more than less than the 15 feet. So we're talking about 2.5 feet. So what you need to do is balance the need of that individual. And so with respect to Section 10, it says a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. We're in the otherwise. I've litigated these cases before. And individuals who have a handicap are into that category otherwise. That's why the state statute recognizes that you can't discriminate against an individual who has a disability or a handicap. So the question for you is, are you going to afford the relief, that 2.5 feet, so this individual could stay in a home that she's been in, and when her parents pass on, she has the benefit of the trust and chooses to live there. I'd be glad to answer questions that any member may have about the home, or about Ted and the trust. But this one, in terms of need, is a need not only for today, but for the future with respect to the individual who is the beneficiary of the trust that I represent, and as I indicated, has every protection under the Americans with Disability Act, including their civil rights. And so I'm hopeful that the board will take into consideration those facts as against speculation, conjecture, or whatever else is out there. I've been told, I've spoken with the ward council, people have concern about parking. It's a single family home that's got 4 spaces that needs 2, all on site. You know that 96% of the homes in Lynn don't meet the impervious lot coverage requirement. There are pavers. And so one of the things for relief we have, but we could deal with that in self-help by taking up the pavers, but there's enough bordering green space. And in fact, there's no requirement for green space, but we have sufficient pervious surface to satisfy if we were required to that need. But we asked for relief, which was because we believe we got more than 65% with lot coverage. But as I say, 96% of the homes in Lynn are in the same category where they don't meet that requirement. So that's the second need that we had, was the impervious lot coverage. As with respect to what the impact of this home would be, it's being restored. It had $500,000 in damage. It's a Victorian home. I brought with me the copies of the assessor's field card because I think it has a good snapshot of what I have just related to you, which is the home, its history, and it has a list of permits that were granted, including the one for repairing the fire and water damage that occurred when the conflagration and the fire nearly annihilated Ted, his wife, and his daughter. So let me hand these out. Give you one to your clerk.
Thank you.
Because it has, as I said, a picture of the home, there's a diagram of the home, it states that it's a single family home, it has a transaction with Catholic Charities, who was the prior owner, deeded it to Ted. I'd be glad to answer any questions any member has.
So is this the proposal is to extend the deck into the rear?
The deck is a three-story deck, yeah.
And this
It's got a spiral staircase and it conforms at ground level, but not when it goes up. And the building inspector advised that we needed to get relief, and that's what we're seeking.
but you're not extending the footprint at all?
It's the deck, it's a staircase, comes down, you have a diagram, or I could give you a diagram by the architect, but I think I submitted this set of drawings, but that's,
Yeah.
Folder.
Okay.
Is there a proposed site plan?
excuse me?
A proposed site plan, like what it looks like?
This is by the architect, it's a complete
Yeah.
set of drawings.
I see an existing condition. I'm just curious what the proposed condition is. Is it just stairs being put on an existing deck? Is it extending, like where is that on the site?
Do I know, the configuration of the house is gonna remain the same except at the rear?
Okay, so where, is there a plan that shows where that is?
Yes. Well, that's the way we need relief.
I don't see it in the file.
Oh. You back up? That was submitted to the building department and submitted when we filed the application.
Yeah, so I don't see like a site plan of it. I see details.
Well, there's a drawing also done by a surveyor that shows the layout of the existing home, which I also found.
Yeah, so I'm looking
It
for.
shows the house on the property,
Yeah,
with the
but
pavers, with the driveway, and it's
I'm just looking
configured.
for something that shows proposed, superimposed, that shows the proposed work, how that gets superimposed onto the existing lot.
We found what was required, which was a plan by a registered engineer and a certified block plan with respect to the relief we need is to the deck. We're not changing the front of the house.
Yeah, so where's the plan that shows the deck?
Where's the plan that shows the deck?
Yeah, the proposed deck. Is
Right here.
this, are these dimensions changing?
This is the architect.
I don't see it.
I think it said that going up.
Yeah, he has that plan.
Yeah, so where's the deck? The proposed deck.
But
It's
that's,
here.
but that's, if you look at the,
So is that footprint changing at all?
right, yeah, so this is Grosvenor, this is
Yeah, the existing deck.
206.
Speak to this.
Yeah, just say your name and
Grosvenor.
address for the record, please.
Ted Coronas,
Yeah.
Yeah.
206 Ocean Street.
Yeah.
With proper greetings in order, I'd like to
Also,
present myself. Thank you. And also,
Just describe what the answer. Why don't we answer Mr. Olson's question?
okay,
Yeah, so I just want to know where the proposed work is. Is there anything that changes on that footprint?
here's the house, correct?
Yep.
This is Mr. Thaler's.
Show him where the deck is.
Yeah.
Here's where the deck is, right here.
Yep.
Existing.
Okay.
We wanted to go up to the second half floor to get a legal egress.
Okay. So that's being,
What he's asking us to do.
okay.
Because when we had the fire,
We had to stay there.
bring everything up to code, meaning we had to strip the entire house down to a slate. All the tubing, electric, all the old plumbing, all the asbestos, plastic, insulation. Then,
My question is on the deck. So that deck, is that deck staying?
yes,
Building on it?
we're building on it.
Okay.
It's already there. Building department has approved it.
Okay, so there's a deck and then there's an overhang for that deck above? Is that
We're
what that
gonna
is?
build, there's a roof on it to go to the second floor. That'll be a deck, and then to the third floor for egress.
And so that, those dimensions of that deck are not changing?
No.
So,
Excuse me,
so
the dimensions,
So what I personally would like to see is that plan that says existing conditions. I'd like to see that plan with the proposed deck. If it doesn't change, just say
I'm sorry.
modified deck on the existing.
I'm sorry,
dimensions.
I'm sorry.
Just,
The deck does come out 6 more feet if you look at the drawing,
So,
and that's been approved.
yeah, so what I wanted to see is that on a site plan showing that new footprint of that deck on that plan. That's the only change being made to the site is that deck, correct?
We're adding to the deck.
Yeah, so that needs to be shown on a proposed condition site plan, where that is, what the dimensions of that.
Okay, you want it on the site
Yeah,
plan?
and I want to know what it is and what you're proposing so that when it gets built, survey wise,
Here it is here, built.
yeah, it needs to be on there.
This,
Right, that's how to build it. That's the property line. I want to know how far from the property line that proposed deck is going to be on a plan.
we have that, it's 12 feet, and we
It
need,
needs to be on a plan that's filed with the submission.
I
And
believe,
your attorney can explain what I'm looking for.
Chair, I have a question, if I may, through you, to the Inspectional Services Department regarding the 6 feet that was just mentioned, if it was already approved. Is that correct, or is that fact?
I'm not a building inspector, but I'm looking at the building inspector's notes. On 12/9, you should stop work on a plan submitted did not match construction of multi-level egress deck, revised frame plans and plot plan required. I've been out to the site, my understanding is they're increasing the height of the existing structure and increasing its footprint all along within the rear setback. So it requires a variance.
the 2-foot variance to the back lot line.
Mr. Chair? No, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, good. Sorry, can you give me a timeline of the fire reconstruction there? I'm looking at a photo from May 2025. Where was that post reconstruction?
Yes, the fire was January 26, 2024.
Okay. Okay, and so then so the photo that I'm looking at has a single dormer on the rear. Is that where the egress is going to be? Is the
On the
plot,
third- Yes,
yeah, so the plot plan looks like it has a second dormer on the second and a half floor.
yes, it does.
Is that already in place, or is that going to be added along with the deck?
That is part of the deck plan to get the legal egress
Right.
needed to have an emergency egress.
Okay, so it's a second dormer next to the dormer here.
Now, I just might add that the plans changed because the fire department came in and said, under no circumstances.
Can you move closer to the
Oh,
mic?
under
Thank
no-
you.
Thank you. Under any circumstances, a spiral stair meets code. So my engineer and architect drew a drawing with steps zigzagging all the way from the third floor to the first existing deck. Now, which would have been a horror show, very ugly and very ridiculous. Mr. Keith Richards and I were talking, and I said, how come the state says you can have a spiral staircase? He said, absolutely. Whoever told you that, it's not true. So then he overrid the fire department, and we ended up with a drawing with the spiral staircase.
I mean, yeah, that was,
So you can imagine, we just lived through a fire that totaled our house. The three of us got out alive. All right? This is serious stuff. I'm 78 years old. My wife is 78. My daughter's 45. I've lost 2 sons and a granddaughter. I don't take life for granted. This is why I'm trying to do this in good faith. Whatever the city asked me to do, I did. They wanted an engineer, I got an engineer. They wanted a certified plot plan for $6,000, I did it. They wanted an architect, I did it. They wanted a controlled construction site with my engineer so that all they had to do was come in at the end and sign off for the final. We did that. I don't know what else I can do to look at. Let me just say one thing, please. No one's going to defend my daughter. No one's going to step up for her rights. And when I think of what people in this room disregard her safety and well-being because one of them thinks it's parking, another one thinks it's going to decrease the value of the property. That was an abandoned building for, I believe, over 10 years. I came in, that house has just been appraised for $1.3 million. I don't think the value of your house is going down.
All right,
with
all right.
mine.
Address the chairman.
let's keep it here. So
I'm sorry.
that does answer my other question though. So the spiral design is.
I wrote a statement. May I please read this
Chair.
to the chair?
Does it have anything to do with the application in front of us?
It has a lot to do, because
The purpose of the improvement is to benefit an individual with a recognized disability.
So, just inspectional services, you mentioned, plot plan. You mentioned there were 2 things that you had concern with missing.
There's 2 issues I understand it. It's the footings and everything are already in place. They built it. It's my understanding, based on my conversation with the building inspectors, they built it beyond the scope of their original permits. So we issued a stop work order.
Yeah.
There are 2 things in issue. The existing deck increased its height with the radiant setback would require a special permit. It's a non-conforming structure. But they also increased the footprint of the back of the deck within the radiant setback. That requires a variance. The variance is the highest standard. So if you're a variance, you can increase the height of all of them.
Okay. So we need a plan that shows what that.
That can be achieved by a professional.
Right.
We'd be glad to submit it.
What is required for us to even consider?
Well, we have a building construction consultant. I mean, he's not here, but
Yeah.
he is, Mr. Coronis indicated, was prepared to do what's called a concurrent construction affidavit, which is not ordinarily done for a 1 or a 2 family home. It's usually done for anything more than that, a commercial structure, whatever. That affidavit is given in support of 2 things: that it complies with local zoning, or if it doesn't, what it doesn't meet, and the second, whether it satisfies the state building code. As Ted said, his objective is not to.
We just need to see what we're granting a variance for. Because right now, the plan does not show that proposed.
Well, the plans do show that, but they don't show it on one plan.
It doesn't show on the plot plan, which is required.
Right, I just said that, it didn't show on one plan,
Yeah.
but you have a professional architect set of plans as to the dimensions of the
That
deck.
has nothing to do with the property and the setbacks and the variance. That's how to build it. This has to do with the setbacks, which we need to grant the variance for.
That plan was drawn by a professional architect as to what the deck's dimensions. If you look at beyond the first page, you'll see it has the dimensions. It has everything that is required to satisfy the building code. It also, as Ted said, when you take a building that was built in 1920 and there's a fire, you can't put it back as the way it was in 1920. You have to put it in what's required in 2025.
So we just need to see in plan
And
what that new footprint.
that can be done by a professional.
Yes. And that needs to be submitted for us to even consider a variance.
I would like to make one correction.
No, you don't need to make any corrections. You don't need,
Footing.
no. Are there any other questions?
I don't,
Yeah,
anybody
so
else on the board?
I guess the only question that I would have, and I think we might get it through this information, is you're extending a non-conforming use into the back. That's what it sounds like to me is going on. And how far are you extending into?
We believe we're 2.5 feet short from 15.
Okay.
That's why I framed the issue as 2.5 feet.
And I guess my comment to that, you can take if it was possible to do that, I would assume you'd be able to do it by right if you just had a smaller deck. I don't know if that's possible with the building codes and everything else, but we wouldn't be in this predicament if you.
Well, I don't know that we're in a
We
predicament.
get the spiral in the existing diameter
Yeah.
of the width of the porch. You know, it has to be 6 feet in diameter, the spiral staircase. So we needed that 3 feet so you could walk around it and go up.
Which, yeah, and that's what we're here
Common
is
sense.
the extension of that rear deck. So that's what I'm most interested in learning is how much that's going to be extended.
So we're glad to get you the plan.
Can I read the
Yes, you
statement? Because of the tragedy of a fire, we went to the city to find out what had to be done. When the estimate came in at $450,000 plus $120,000 for city to meet the code, we had to, one, enlarge from the street, the water line, the sewer line, the gas line, all to code. Where the house was built in 1910, of course it wasn't. So I'm trying to display to you the immensity of this project. Now, one of the building inspectors, I think it was Peter, gave me permission to do the footings orally. Gave me and came.
Address this year.
Oh, and came and inspected the footings and met all the code. So that wasn't a true statement you just heard. But let me just end. I've been so patient. Let me just end with this statement. 2.5 feet going up 2.5 stories versus my daughter's journey of 100 miles, maybe, in 20 or 30 years. That 2.5 feet seems very, very insignificant compared to the road my daughter has to walk down without me one day and my wife. We have parking for 4.5 cars. Why do I say that? Because there's a person here,
Again, just address the chair.
the person here who thinks that we're going to have a highway. That's not so. I've been looking up the state regulations for safety and emergency access and egress for severely disabled people. If we were on the third floor with that fire, we'd all be dead. Some people probably don't like the cosmetics of it. All I have to say is this. If my daughter's civil rights are denied and not recognized, there will be a civil suit for everybody sitting in this room. Mark my words. It's not a threat, it's a fact. Thank you.
I think that what we want to focus on is you can come from Minnesota, you can come from Mars and speak at the Lynn Zoning Board of Appeals. I never have a problem with individuals who think their home is their castle. But the governor recognized and the state law recognizes that to have a legitimate concern, you have to articulate a specific harm or injury to your property interest. So we're talking about the rear deck. So if I live across the street in Ocean Street, I can't see the rear deck. I don't know what is the harm to somebody's property interest who lives across the street. I often tell people, if I'm going to have less than the required right sideline and you're my neighbor on the left, how are you affected adversely? And so I want you to listen carefully. And what Ted alluded to is he's spent hundreds of thousands of dollars as an investment, which ought to increase the value of everyone's home in the area. Because he's made such a substantial investment, took a property that was essentially abandoned by Catholic charities, saw that it had a particular value to him especially because he had a daughter that had needs, and this was a home that the Catholic charities ran for individuals with special needs, then had this fire, and then had to rebuild, but couldn't rebuild as it was in 1910. And as he articulated, had to make these expenditures. And we're now down at the last item that has to be done satisfactorily. And we'd be glad to submit a plan that shows exactly what it is. But ultimately, the decision is as he's framed it. It's 2.5 feet for the enjoyment and use of this property, which is owned by a trust for the benefit of a disabled individual.
I'm just going to take a quick point of personal privilege and comment on this. I've been in a fire before. I've been in a fire on the third floor, and it's scary. And it's going to be a little emotional about it. When you go to the back door and it's red hot, you don't know what to expect. You open the other door on the opposite end of the building, and it's pitch black. And, you know, that's the only way out through that darkness. 3 flights of stairs. That's scary. So I empathize. But I still need a plan that shows what you're proposing for me to rule.
Thank you. So, my name is David.
Thank you for sharing
I
that.
think that what Ted wanted me to tell you is there's a petition signed by many neighbors who understand what he's facing. Thank you.
There's a petition here with nine butters that are in support of the project. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in support of the project? Just state your name and address for the record, please. Yeah, if you can sign your name and address for the record.
Sure. In support, yes. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is David Dole. I live at 3 Grosvenor Park, Lynn, Mass. 01902. I live pretty much across the street from Ted here. Yeah, I've been living in the property for 4 years. Know the work that Ted has been doing on the property to try to try to remediate the fire that they had a couple of years ago. I know it hasn't come without its obstacles. And honestly, I haven't communicated with the neighbors that are in here today that, I wish I did just so I got the full picture. But I understand from Ted's perspective that what he's going through is not just costly, but it's also impacting the future of his legacy and his daughter. And, from what I gather, street parking is an issue on the street. Granted, I'm somebody that has sufficient driveway, so it's not a direct concern of mine, but I have people that come over and parking is always an issue. So for me, the main concern is for everything to be done up to code and for the safety of the project and for the timeliness of it. Because I know the work has been going on for maybe longer than I would expect, albeit, I'm not in that space, so I don't know exactly what it entails. But for me personally, the conversations that I've had with Ted, it's always been for the intention of the betterment of the property, for ultimately for his daughter to have the use when they're no longer here. And yes, like any construction that's going on around the neighborhood, it can be a lot to deal with at times. Me personally, I work from home, 2 or 3 days out of the week. I hear it at times, but it's never to a point where it's too distracting. I've yet to really have any issues with the look of it, and I have a view of it directly in front of my property. I understand people that live around, they may have their own perspective on the view of the property, and maybe from their angle, it isn't the most appealing. But for me personally, I don't think that the addition of these new decks are really detrimental. I can't speak to the property value, but it's just not something that I think is going to be. It may sway it go up. I don't see it going down, but that's just an opinion. All in all, I do think that the 2.5 foot variance, right? I understand that these things are code for a reason. And so long as the building inspectors and all the different parts of the service department, inspectional department, okay it, then that's my only concern, is that everything is up to code and that safety isn't an issue in the future. The parking, so long as they're able to accommodate that there on their property so it's not taking up another street, that's not something I have a concern with. So ultimately, I'm in support of it. Again, so long as the 2.5 foot variance is something that is up to par with what the city expects. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak for the project? Here none. Would anybody like to come up and speak against the project? Just sign your name and address for the record before you speak. Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Vincent Phelan. I live at 10 Grosvenor Park. I am the direct abutter directly behind this home. My grandparents own that home. I've known this, I'm 62 years old. My first time in the home that I'm in right now was when I was 4 days old, when I came home from the hospital. My parents took me over for my grandparents to see me there. Excuse me. My dad grew up in that home. Afterwards, and I remember the Catholic Charities living there. I remember the nuns that actually lived there. We knew them well, and I think that some of the other people that have been there for a while also knew them. It's been an ordeal since this fire, but the projects that were going on much before that. And I worked with Ted on one of the projects, but from right off the bat in this process, the debris and the construction material that was just strewn about for a year or two in their yard was unbelievable, to the tune of that was right in their driveway. All their construction debris was just loaded up there, and there were rats living in there. My son saw those rats, and during the middle of the day, said, "Dad, you have to take a peek at this." We looked out the window. There were 3 rats in that construction pile during the middle of the day. I've called inspectional services in regard to the debris that was there and how long it's been there. And they ordered them to remove the debris. And they didn't remove it. What they did is they moved it from the driveway and they tucked it around the corner to hide it. So they just moved the rat nest. So I'll submit that photo as the trash. And that's exactly what we look at out of our house. And we've been doing that for close to 2 years. We have a wraparound porch on the front that has my wife and my mother-in-law sewed a curtain so that we don't have to look to the right of our home because of the debris that's been out there for so long. We can't open our windows or the shades on that side because what we look out to is unbelievable. My son's bedroom has not had the shade opened for close to a year because you're looking down onto it. It's unbelievable how much we have gone through there. They say that they've been courteous and respectful and trying to do everything right. When they first just put this deck out there, it was a roof beforehand, so they just did it. And they were using it as their launching pad on many occasions when they were gutting the home. I come home one day, and this is the first time there was a dumpster there, and there were guys coming out the windows on the second floor in hazmat suits that had the goggles, the mask on, and from head to toe, and the slippers, the gloves, and they were taking bags of trash, and Ted just mentioned that they were removing asbestos. They were throwing it off the roof into the dumpster. It would hit the dumpster and explode. White powder would come up, it went into our yard, and the windows that were open, it was during the summertime. We had dusting in there. I spoke with Mr. Coronis about it. He said, "I'll pay to have it cleaned up." Never happened. Never happened. There's a utility pole. And by the way, this is the curtain that I just said that we had to submit that also. There's a utility pole right at the front of the street. During this construction, when they were bringing people in, it's not a construction company that's actually been doing this work. They have 2 people that live there, a husband and wife, I assume. They work on the home and they stay there. So whatever individual, they said the construction is being done, it's one individual that's staying there that's been doing this. That particular truck that he had backed up into the utility pole. Well, that's right on the border of our property, with Ted's property and mine. It sent it tilting into the street. His response to it was, well, it's at the bottom. So he took a piece of concrete. This is the whole bending there. Just put a piece of concrete in there so it wouldn't buckle out anymore from the bottom. So it was sitting there. I spoke with Ted about this, and he said, what do I have to do about it? I had to call the city, the law department. I called Verizon, inspectional services about what to do about this particular pole. Finally, Brian LaPierre, after about 40, the council at large, Brian LaPierre and I, after about 40 phone calls back and forth, got them to come, and they had to replace the pole. Well, what that inconvenience did, it took about 7 months, is that it was stretching against my house so that our internet went out, and my 2 kids, on many occasions, the internet would be out. They had to do their homework in their friend's house. They would have to go over and do their homework because we weren't online, or they had to do it on their phone. That was a constant 6 to 7 months that was going on. And so it's not just a little bit of an inconvenience. Grosvenor Park is one of, I think there are 23 streets in the city that are through streets that don't have sidewalks. Grosvenor Park does not have any sidewalks on it at all. And it's the same size of the street of all the finger streets going from Ocean Street down to Lynn Shore Drive. The parking is a major issue there. You can say there's parking wars, I call them, on the corner up there, where people have painted their own parking spots only to have them painted over again. People screaming matches from people because it comes on Ocean Street. Ocean Street is a cut through for people going from coming back from work, from going to Swampscott or Marblehead, and they fly through there. Grosvenor Park coming down is also a cut through. A lot of people are walking on that street in the summertime, and they walk their dogs there. And when you come around that corner, you can't see anything because of the limited parking there. It's a danger. And it's not only a danger to every people that are driving, it's a danger to Joy. Joy is out in the middle of the street often. She runs out in the middle of the street. She runs out to give high fives, and she's out there almost during the summertime. She's out there almost every single day that the weather is good. And there are times my boys are 18 now and 17. I've had to tell them when one has his permit, the other one just got his license last year. I had to say, you have to watch it when you're coming around that corner, no matter what. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, and you can't go slow. Additionally, they had a family that was living there that was from Ukraine a couple of years ago, or about a year ago. And they had 2 little boys. And before this construction started, these little kids would come flying out of that driveway. They were tiny, 2 little boys, out on their bikes, almost accidents on a daily basis. I had to go to Ted and say, Ted, please do something. I'm going to call DCF. This is really, really Department of Children and Families. This is really dangerous, and you have to do something about it. But there were several times, and that's before this construction actually started. And so it's the street is not it's not a safe street as it is. And I think everyone that's here is going to testify to that. They talk about parking. And I want to show you, they said, oh, we have plenty of parking. These are pictures from 3 separate time frames. One was from the summer. See how that's Ted's yard. This was from about a week or so ago. And this was today. They're out into the street, no matter what. And their cars are there. They're out into the street. And this happens all the time. It is a constant parking problem there. And so for them to say that they have plenty of parking spots, it's bottlenecked in. That 2.5 feet bottlenecks it in so that only 2 cars can really get in there because you'd have to pull one out and then pull another one out. They're taking away that spot by doing this deck. This is going to show what you were looking for about where the plot plan is. It's going to show you how far out it is. From right here, well, first I'm going to go through, this is a dangerous situation for a couple of reasons. Ted and I put a fence up we had a chain link fence about a decade ago that separated our properties. We came up with a deal that we would go on and trust me, I know the expense of doing a home. 10 years ago, the house next door, which is a Victorian, my wife and I, we gutted it from head to toe. We understand the expense. We did the exact same thing. We weren't throwing asbestos out the window. We actually had it taken away by professionals that were supposed to do it properly. But the fence that we put between us was a chain link fence beforehand, and now it is a PVC fence. It was my building permit. Ted had the guy that was going to install it. Roger Ennis was the inspector at the time from Inspectional Services. He's no longer working for the city now. I think he retired. But what he said is that you have the 8-foot fence coming out, and then as you get closer to the front, because we're the only fence that extends exactly to the street on this particular street. He said it has to come down from the 8 feet, taper down, and then go to 4 feet. So I'll show you that this is what we did. And we came out and we had that fence. And the purpose of that is because my driveway is really close to it, is that when we pull out, we're able to see up the street because it's down at 4 feet. Now, if you look at these pictures, you can see where they're extending out the deck up top and the deck down the bottom. From where the furthest white pole is, right here, that's the extension of the deck. It's not near the spiral staircases. This is solely so that they can have a view of the ocean. They're extending it out to the street that way. If what they're saying is this was solely for joy, they wouldn't have to extend it to the street at all. They wouldn't have to. It's right there. They could stay on the same footprint going straight up. Instead, what they're doing is they're going further out that way, losing a parking spot right there. It's very disingenuous just to say that that's what this is for, because the deck will be huge. Otherwise, it's going to be out further. The spiral staircases are towards the other side. These are the spiral staircases that they're talking about. You can see that it's on the furthest side. I will submit to you that those spiral staircases are more of a danger coming down those stairs. Joy is a very nice person. Joy has impulse control problems where she's run out into the street many times. We know that she smashed her head into a glass window, thereby, and they had to restrain her and take her to the hospital. So this is a case where if something were to happen, and she's ambulatory, she's cognitively impaired, but
Can you just not comment on somebody's personal?
I understand.
Just
But
stay on the subject.
But my worry would be is if she were to fall coming down.
We're here for.
Okay. This particular property, as far as not only throwing asbestos out, every single time that they did any work on the interior that required any plastering, the buckets of the plaster would be taken out to the street and poured down the street. And there'd be a white little river that would go down the streets that would go to the ocean, but it would dry and it would have to stay there until afterwards when there would be a rainstorm. But eventually that all washed down to the street. It absolutely did. Down to the ocean or the drain at the bottom of the street. Talk about safety. August 23rd of last year, at about 9 o'clock at night, my wife had a heart attack in our house. We called 911, and the fire department came and the ambulance came. They had a difficult time making it down the street because there was a construction vehicle in front of Ted Coronas' radio host, Ted Coronas' house, that made it so that they had to get the truck to move. They drove down the street, and then they were able to come to our house there. They couldn't get around it. They were on the wrong side of the street. I have a picture here of when they just said about the footings. The footings were done 6 weeks ago, I think, and it was a cold day. So once again, they just poured all the water down, and they created an ice rink going down the street in which the mailman and Uber Eats did not want to come up to our house because it was just ice in front of it. It was a river of ice in front of it. One second. We heard a lot about the zoning setbacks and the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3 is what was cited. I think you have to really read that to get an understanding of it, and it can't just be said that this is for a person with a disability. And basically, it says generally exterior stairs must abide by zoning setbacks. Disability exception under MGL 40A Section 3, reasonable accommodations such as access ramps. That's for someone who needs to get out with a wheelchair that can come up and down. It's not talking about spiral staircases going up. Immediately it says, this is taken out of a statement from here. It says, however, a standard spiral stair used merely for aesthetic or extra access will not qualify for this exemption without your approval. So that section that was quoted for ramps. It's not for spiral staircases. And if you take a look at what they're doing here, they're using the spiral staircase just to extend those particular decks further towards the street so that you can look down the street, so you can get set out there. You can see where they're trying to do it. If they weren't trying just to do that, and that's where the setbacks are that they need the variance for. My thing is looking out, coming out of the driveway. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. My kids, I worry that they're going to hit someone coming out you can't see coming right out. And now the railings, because where they extended the deck, there's a staircase now that goes right to the street, and there are railings there that also block, and they're over 8 feet. They're over 8 feet. But I do want to say that probably the biggest thing that I'd like to say is I had a personal conversation with Ted about this many times, but on the one that's important, or the one that sticks in my mind, is that on May 23rd of last year, my son had a graduation party, and he was outside. It was a nice day, and he played basketball, so there were people playing basketball in the yard, and Ted showed up in the yard. Had a drink in his hand. Came over, was trying to be sociable. He wanted to play ball with the boys because he played professional basketball in Greece a long time ago. But he also was carrying a pair of shears at the time, and someone came in and said, "We think there's a homeless guy in the yard." One of the kids said that, and I came out and it was Ted. And I said, "No, it's not." But I said, "Ted, it's kind of inappropriate for you to be here at this party." Joey was with him, and I walked him out around the corner, out of the driveway. And as we were walking out, I said to him, I said, "Ted, what the heck's going on over here, by the way, with your decks?" And he said, "I need a second egress from the second and third floor so that I can make this a legal three-family." That's an exact quote, and there are other people here that he said the same thing to. So I wouldn't say that this is, that he's not being honest about it. I think that this can help, in many ways, but I don't understand why it has to go out to the front and block the view looking up the street so that it's not safe getting there, or getting out of my driveway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak against the project? Just sign your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name's Elizabeth Mooney. I live at 15 Grosvenor Park in Lynn. I've owned that house since 1995, and I've lived there almost off and on for 60 years. My father owned it, and then I bought it from my dad back in 95. And this is nothing personal. I personally like Ted, but this issue, and I'm going to be very brief with this because I don't want to waste time. I have had many conversations with Ted over the last 3 years, and this has been a really tough situation with the construction, and I feel bad about his fire. And I also take care of my brother who is disabled, so I understand the whole issue with Joy. But this is not about Joy. This is about him wanting to build up and convert this to a three-family illegally. That's what he's trying to do. He's told me that he was going to make a three-family out of it. I've heard it from him more than once. And if you talk to the city of Lynn, I don't know the inspectors, but, they put those orange stickers in the windows to cease and desist. I saw this gentleman, I don't know his name, but somebody was putting them up. Within 2 days, they were taken off. First, he put a piece of wood over it, and then I don't know how you get those off the window. I mean, they must be pretty sticky, but they were torn off. So, all this stuff being said, and, the parking, yes, the parking's an issue because it's a street that has no sidewalks, and people have, built 2 families on the street. I'm fine with that. That's not the issue. And what happens is when they do build them, people have taken part of their lawn out and made a driveway. So now there's even less parking on the street. So if you went down the street, you'd see there's hardly any parking. Now he's saying he's got a 4 parking spot. I'm not an inspector and I don't know that, but it looks like he has tandem 2 cars. Tandem. And one of them sticks out the back of the street, on the street. But all this being said, this is all talking about his daughter Joy, but it really has to do with he's going to build an illegal 3-family. That's what's going to happen. Thank you.
Anybody else? Sign your name, address, please, for the record.
Hi, everybody. My name's Steve Spinelli. I live at 211 Ocean, which is directly across the street from that guy. I've been there my whole life. I'm 58 years old. Probably other than Beth, I don't think there's been anybody in that neighborhood that's been in this home as long as I have. I got nothing against him. I really don't care what he does as long as it's legal and it's not something that's hideous, which it is right now. When I look out, I see nothing but just garbage construction going on. There's 3 different points I want to bring up. One of them being, I don't like the fact that there's 2 giant pillars coming off that second deck. It's hideous. It goes out over the grass, almost to the street. I think you see them in photos that Finn gave you. So I didn't like that, and I took it upon myself to come here to City Hall one evening. I actually went, I'm not really sure where I went, but I spoke to a woman named Lisa and another woman actually who I explained the situation to them. I said, I don't, is this guy actually, what he's doing, is it legal? Does he have a permit? And they looked it up on the system and they said he has 20 feet. That's what he's allowed, 20 feet to build that deck. I took pictures and as you can clearly see on those, that is not 20 feet. That's about 30 feet. Now, I don't know about this whole 2.5-foot variance thing. I don't really care what goes on behind that house. I don't care what goes on down the other end. What I do care about is what's going on the end that's going out to the street. That's about 6 or 7 feet that comes off that deck out into the air, as you can see. The inspector, his name was Joel. They actually gave me a card. I called Joel. I spoke to him. I explained this to him. He went down there. He looked at it. He called me back and he said, "You're right." He goes, "This guy's way over the limit." I don't know where this 2.5 foot, I don't even know where that's coming from when you're talking 6 feet out, sticking out over the grass. It looks terrible. If you live where I live, if you live directly across the street, then when he looks out his window, he sees these 2 giant things coming out. As he mentioned, he probably wants to build on it so he has a view of the ocean. I don't know. All I know is it's not legal. It's coming from your own place right here, City Hall. I went back and forth with Joel on the phone probably about 6 times. He said he went down there again, spoke to this guy, and I guess he voluntarily said he would stop doing the work. 2 days later, I see them out there again doing work. I called Joel again, the inspector. "Joel, they're doing work." He goes, "All right, I'll go down there again." This time he goes down there again and he puts these big orange things, one right in his front window that's facing me. And I guess he put one around the back somewhere. I don't know. And within maybe a day or two, it looked like you could still see like the part of it, the white part that may be stuck behind it, the glue. The rest of it was gone. I don't know where it went. It just mysteriously disappeared. Called up Joel again. Joel went down there and said, "Yeah, it looks, that's gone." I don't think he was home at the time. He went around the back. He said there was a piece of wood, like a plank of wood, covering the other one intentionally. So that's that part of it. From what I've heard talking to neighbors, because I don't talk to him, I have no reason to, there's a lot of talk about building a second and a third floor, separate units to make it like a multifamily. Once again, I really don't care, but I do care if it's illegal, as Beth mentioned. I don't know if he has the permits for that. I don't know. We got a serious problem with parking in that neighborhood, as once again, you heard from them. I myself do not park on my street because my rearview mirror will get taken off like it has a dozen times over the years. It's a very busy street. There's just a lot of traffic. So what I do is I park in Grosvenor Park. It's important for me to park across the street, which I do, as I have pretty much my entire life. A lot of times, he will park in those same spots. His wife will park there because they want to leave their driveway that can hold 4 or 5 cars completely open to pile all their construction stuff in it. So they park in the street, which makes it hard for me. I really don't care. I'm all about share the wealth. If we can all fit in there, that's fine. I'm happy with that, but I can't. Now, with the notion of knowing that this could turn into a multifamily, do you realize what that's going to do for the parking? That's going to make it 5 times worse than it already is. Not only will they park on Grosvenor Park, because they're not going to park in that driveway for whatever reasons, and if they do, they'll still park on Grosvenor Park, and they'll park on Ocean Street. There'll be no place for me to park. Because the house I live in, we have other people that live there. That's a multifamily, legally, as it's been from day one. And those people park on Ocean Street. So that's that part of it. And excuse my ignorance if I really don't know what I'm about to say about his daughter. I don't know anything about her, except for what they said, and maybe the times I've seen her out there. I really don't understand what that has to do with any of this. I really don't. I'm sorry. I don't understand what that has to do with a spiral staircase of 6 feet of wood sticking out. Coach, somebody may have to educate me or tell me where I fail to understand what that has to do with any of this.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak in this matter? Lisa.
Hi, I'm Rolly Hayes. I've lived in Lynn for 20 years. I own Rolly's Tavern in Wyoming Square. And I am against it. I don't need to get into, basically the parking is a serious issue. The safety coming around the corner. Spin just said he parks his truck there periodically. The construction, which, by the way, prior to the fire, went on just as much as it goes on right now. The construction, since I've lived in that house for 7 years, has never stopped. We'll start with one project, and then, next month they change it, and it doesn't seem to be any plan to the construction. I mean, the deck went up, came down, went up again, he leaves the construction vehicles blocking his driveway. I've come around the corner there and actually hit Spin's mirror with my mirror on my car, trying to squeeze past his construction vehicles. But anyway, not to belabor it, I'm against it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Can you just sign in?
You bet.
Your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, counselors. Thank you again for having me. My name is John O'Gasian. I live at 31 Grosvenor Park, towards the end. So I'm a resident of Grosvenor Park, and I'm here tonight with my good neighbors, that live in the same street as I do. It's as noted, a small, historic, tax-paying community that cares deeply about the safety, as you've heard, and the integrity of our neighborhood. We are here to strongly oppose the zoning variance request to allow the alteration, which is interesting that it said it's a 2.5 family dwelling on 206 Ocean Street, but I'm kind of don't know if it's a single or 2.5 family, so I just went what was on the notice. And let me be absolutely clear, this is not a minor exception. When a street is small and historic, consistent as ours, this is a major structural change. The real issue we should be looking more deeply here is why such an oversized, lavish porch being added in, which was just brought up, and I was going down the street today, and I've seen it, that it just looks out of place. This is a very historic neighborhood, and it just is out to the street. So I just don't understand why. And I ask these questions all the time. Why the fancy spiral staircases leading to the ground level being added? And again, speculation as noted, additional dwellings, I don't know. It's pure speculation. But why has the owner already installed 3 separate meters on the side? Again, I'm not an electrician, but I'm sitting there 3 separate feeds up to 3 separate floors. Just didn't make sense to me. And again, conjecture on my point. But let's be honest and transparent here. That's what I want, transparency from everybody of what the owner is doing to his building, and if it is legitimized by something that impacts his daughter, which I've met several times, she's a sweetheart, and I love her dearly. But again, I see what I see, and it just doesn't make sense to me, okay? But let me give you a background of why I think so much about Rosen Park. Rosen Park has only 17 homes. 17. It's a small, quaint little street, one-way street. To me, that means one single variance represents 6% alteration to the entire street. No other neighborhood in the city would accept a 6% zoning change by acceptance, and neither should we. Most of the homes, it's a very historic block. Most of the homes, as indicated, were built between 1890 and 1923. My own home, which has been in our family for over 63 years, dates back to 1923. The street is part of the Diamond District. 20th century fabric, a tight-knit neighborhood known for its single-family character and architectural continuity. Okay? And now that continuity is being threatened. The variance is being added as oversized porches, spiral staircase. It looks nothing like the neighborhood around it. It sticks out to me. I just walk down the street, I'm going, I love architecture, and it breaks my heart going down Ocean Street and some of the other streets, and they just change the landscapes of these homes. Now, granted, yes, if I had to do the same in my house, I have old wiring that doesn't make sense. I'll probably have asbestos, and if I did have to make renovations, yeah, I definitely would have to make up to code, because a lot of things have changed over 100 years, for sure. So again, the visual integrity, and also if we do keep on changing these variances, that not only erodes the character of the neighborhood, it remains, an entry point for other people in the neighborhood to do it. And I'm seeing more and more homes do it. There was another house down on Lynn Shore Drive, beautiful, nice, small house, probably been around the early 1900s. Stripped to the bone. They'll tear it down, change it, and it's just going to look odd. Okay? But let's talk about property values and neighborhood integrity. We live in a beach adjacent, historically single-family area. People invest and live here because of the stability and character of the neighborhood. And allowing, a multi-family conversion sets a precedence, really, to open up the door. I get it. But again, I don't know really what the truth is here, But again, it's just rezoning, and once that happens, the entire street changes permanently. permitted. There's no going back. There's no going back. And that really is a cause effect of our property values spiraling downward. Okay? It affects the quality of life. It affects the long-term health of the neighborhood. And it sends a message to the city that they're willing to chip away the character that makes this a desirable place to live. I love my neighborhood. I tell people, and they say, "Ooh, Lynn, you know, that's a bad place." Well, I was born and raised in Lynn. I'll probably die here. I don't know. But I'm not moving. And I say, there is such a great area. And I say, we live across from the beach. They go, wow, I can't believe that. So again, we're proud of this street. So really, there's also a high contribution to the city of Lynn. Okay? If we want to look at some numbers, the average assessed value of Grosvenor Park is $731,000, with many houses approaching or exceeding $800,000 to $1 million in value. It's the city, okay? And it's public record. You can look that up. So we're long-term homeowners who contribute disproportionately to the city's tax base. Yet here we are fighting to preserve the zoning protections we already pay dearly for. Let's talk about the physical reality, and this may seem redundant, which if we've talked a lot about it from our side, it is a problem. Okay? Grosvenor Park's a narrow one-way street, no sidewalks. We've talked about that. There's danger there. Okay? Children walk here, elderly neighbors walk here, pet owners walk here. I love this neighborhood because we have a lot of pets, and I get to know all the pets, homeowners. And families go to the beach, walk here. We're kind of like this major thoroughfare. It seems everybody goes to the beach down Grosvenor Park. Cars struggle to pass safely, and I will admit I've seen problems too with emergency vehicles having difficulty navigating the street as it is. Fire engines having difficulty coming down the street. My neighbor had a problem. It was in a heart attack. They had difficulty coming down the street. And I want to share something personal myself. It's just I walk my dog every day, and on multiple occasions, cars have come around the corner. With such limited visibility, I'd had to pull my dog out of the way to avoid being hit. That's not an exaggeration. But this is the reality of a street with no sidewalks and too many cars already using it. Okay? We do not need more traffic on Grosvenor Park. We do not need congestion. We do not need no near misses. Okay? Again, the lots being a very small neighborhood that again dates back over a century, the lots are extremely dense, extremely. The average is 0.114 acres per lot. There's not a lot of room for expansion on that street. Not a heck of a lot. Extremely small. The houses average about 2,500 square feet, meaning that most of the structures already occupy most of the lot. And again, you know, if we head down the direction, if it is indeed a multi-dwelling home change, again, 4 to 6 additional cars minimum, and every one of them ending up the street with no sidewalks. This is an inconvenience. It's a safety hazard. And I think we've all agreed on that. Sorry, keep sticking here. I thought there was going to be a podium here. So again, parking's already at capacity. Residents circle for spots, driveways and walkways of our houses get blocked. Visibility is compromised, always, always. Adding more density to a street that physically cannot support it is not planning, it's negligence. So, in closing, we pay some of the highest taxes in the city, in our street. We maintain historic homes. We support the community. We are proud to live in the street and should not have to fight hard to preserve the zoning that has protected the street for over a century. We're not anti-housing, by all means. We're pro-responsible planners. We're pro-safety. We are pro-neighborhood integrity. And we're asking firmly that the council deny this variance. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
No, it's okay.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Stonkus, and I am a resident at 35 Grosvenor Park, which is the last or the beginning house at the bottom of the hill. So if you go any further, you're going to end up in the ocean. I have been there for 22 years. I love it there. I'm a renter, and I strive very hard in the absence of the owner to keep the home looking nice. And we have great neighbors. And I just, I'm sorry, your first name again? Ted. He and his daughter, I met when they first came to live at Grosvenor Park, and very nice people. His daughter is a sweetheart. I worry very much about her when I see her, not so much lately, but over the years with her, just wanting to be out and in the street, and cars come down Grosvenor Park that are just lickety split. And with the parking problem that we have, in addition to not only in the wintertime, but also the summer, because we have people who go to the beach that find, oh, here's a place to park. So I've had that happen by my house. But the issue that I have is just more safety. And I know that the staircase that is down now goes right to the street. And with cars, and big cars, most people have SUVs now, with a narrow street and very little space to park. I worry about that issue with just safety big time. I don't know that much about what's going on in the house, but I do have that concern with the parking. The other thing is that a year or two ago, was it that we lost our power? There was work being done at some point. I don't know. I heard that there was a problem with the poles, something digging around the big utility pole there right by that house. For 2 days, we had no power. And it was cold. We had no heat. So that was a very big concern. And I was under the understanding that it was from some of the work that was being done on that house. But National Grid came down, and they worked there, tirelessly trying to remedy whatever the problem was. But that was just a very difficult time for all of the neighbors. I suspected we all lost power on the street. So I just think my thing is the safety issue. Everything should be done to code. Everything should be approved. And if that's done, then none of us would have a problem with that. But things need to be done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else like to speak?
Can I get up?
Yeah.
I just bought. Mary Clunan, who was a direct abutter right across from Ted. I did speak to her on the phone. She lives in Boxford. She owns the house. And she couldn't be here tonight, but she's against it also. I wanted to say that. And Mary O'Keefe, who's sitting there, doesn't really get up. She's also against it. And she has a handicapped sister who lives in the house with her. And there's even a sign right on the street, handicap. And she goes up that street sometimes. And when people come around that corner, like if she can't, Joy can run around more than she can. And if a car ever came around the corner and Hillary was standing there, she'd get hit. I mean, she's handicapped. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just have a question for inspection.
I also have questions.
Yeah. Can you, we have new zoning for the entire city. This particular area, I know when it comes to special permits, a lot of that goes to city council now, not to this board. So there is a variance as far as offsets would be that we'd have to look at. But we don't know what that is because we don't have a formal plan for it. So we can rule on that. Is there anything else that would require a special permit that you see with this project?
So part of that is I think it actually increased your ability to grant special permits under the zoning ordinance for non-conforming structures, which is part of this, the variance. But I think what they're asking for is a variance from the rear setback, which is 15 feet, and was 15 feet in the prior ordinance.
Yep.
They're also asking for a variance for impervious lot coverage, which is part of the ordinance, it's not part of the prior ordinance.
Okay.
I haven't seen that calculation in the plans.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be required. So, and then there were posts to stop work. Is that just for the work that was ongoing without permit? Or was there other violations that?
I just read the inspector's report and he put a stop work order because the work that was being performed was beyond the scope of what was permitted. And I went to the property myself and I think I can see what you're talking about. If you look at the back of that building, the deck extends beyond the original structure.
Yep.
And those two extending points are both within the rear yard setback. I'm sure that's what the plan will show.
Okay, so they came in front of, to get a permit, building permit, I assume, to do the work, which was originally approved. And when you went out there, it wasn't being built according to the permit? Is that?
Building inspector found.
Pardon me?
That's what the building inspector found.
Okay.
I can review his exact note.
So it sounds like there's potential demolition required if we don't approve.
Just for the offsets? Right. Just for the deck.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ibrahim, you have some questions?
Similarly to what the chair just asked in terms of special permits, so just for clarity, due to the new zoning regulations, non-conforming structures, if a non-conforming structure in an R2 district wanted to jump up from a single family to a 3-family, which would trigger a special permit, that would be under the purview of the ZBA, not the city council. Sorry?
I believe my reading of the ordinance is that either, actually, if you look at our zoning ordinance under section 5, the interior renovation from 1 to a 2, if it's otherwise allowed in the district, might be done as a matter of right. You get into an area to require a variance, for example, for a lot area for a dwelling unit, that comes to the zoning board of appeals. The use itself, for example, a 3-family in R2, if there's a non-conforming use at present, could come to the zoning board of appeals. Otherwise, we go to the city council. It really depends on how it presents to the city. And I believe the zoning board of appeals does have the authority to grant a special permit in many instances.
Thank you. The other question that I had, well, not a question, but an ask as part of whatever comes out from this board. I know that the chair mentioned and the board seems to be in agreement of having new plans and revising a new set of documents that ground truths what we're seeing in pictures and in other media to what we have on paper. Can ISD also confirm if there are more than 1 meters, as it was alleged or voiced in this feedback?
I think that the presence of more than 1 meter, that's something you see, given its history where it was a loophole of some type possibly, or quasi-commercial building, that might explain it, but our record should show how many meters in the air and what they were added.
Okay.
If the number of meters in the side of the house don't match the records, that's the condition that we refer to the building.
Clarity on that would be great.
And so from my perspective, what I would be most interested in understanding is, it seems to me like that we're extending the footprint in the direction. I only was able to figure this out through the pictures. So we're extending it sort of out, not really back. Based on the field card that I see, it looks like the 9-foot extension is within the footprint. So you're really just extending that 16-foot deck into what's probably a 22-foot deck outwards. And I guess from my perspective, what I'd like to see is there a way to keep it, if we're going to grant a variance saying that it's a hardship to keep it at 16, I'd like to know why. Is that new building codes that are forcing the applicant's hand here to extend, or is it something that they're doing for the purpose of some other purpose, whatever it may be? So if you could keep those staircases within the current footprint, then I don't know why there is hardship to the applicant. But if there is a reason why that needs to be extended, then that's a different situation. So that would be something I would be interested in understanding prior to voting.
Mr. Chair, I'm also a little trying to put this all together here and are we considering, is it our understanding that we're considering the Grosvenor Street side, the rear setback? Is that what we're varying? Because that's where I'm seeing an extension. Or is it the actual rear setback, to my understanding, the opposite of Ocean Street, that the 2.5 feet flag? That's
what it is.
right. So I guess again, another thing that I want to see on the plan is the extension onto the the side. What I
know exactly
the side setback.
Is there another
variance that's required?
that may be required?
Right.
Without a plan, we can't determine that. Inspection services can. It seems like they're building this. They're building it as they're thinking of it. There's no plan.
And I'm curious to also understand from the pictures, I cannot determine if that porch or the deck, the entrance, it seems that there's going to be stairs. I don't know if the stairs are leading towards where the front facing of the property is, or if the stairs or the entrance is intended to come up directly from the Grosvenor Street. So having clarity on that and on the plans itself would be great.
Yeah, so we need to see where the plans are, what the dimensions are of this deck relative to the property line on the plot plan. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just if I could, for you to Attorney Lamato, just very briefly. I was trying to look through the ordinance very quickly. Is there any different consideration from our perspective when it relates to anything going on in a historic district? Because everything I saw was related to like the siting of cannabis or
nothing in our zone ordinance differentiates historic versus non-historic.
Okay. So I think there's information we would like to see. Is that something you provide, and how long would that take?
Glad to provide that, as well as the plan that shows what's required for parking, 2 on-site spaces. We've heard great discussion about parking and traffic. As the board knows, those are community interests. Those are not specific harm or injury to anybody's property. People live in Grosvenor Park and it doesn't have sidewalks. That's where they move to. That's what's there. Only requirement of the petitioner is that they have on-site parking for single family, 2 spaces. The property field card that you have says it's a single family. That's what it is. Everybody who lives in that building is related by blood or marriage or kinship. It's a single family. In terms of values, that's speculation. No real estate appraiser has come forward because they couldn't say that it reduces the value. But we're glad to give you the plan that shows what's the required variances for, which is essentially 2.5 feet. So it's not 3 feet. We're 12.5 feet on the sideline.
Yeah, I guess you could provide like
12.5. That all right, rather than 15. That's what that's about. And then in terms of parking, paved driveway, with two spaces, that's what we're required to have under the ordinance, 2 spaces.
Yeah, and the impervious calculations.
Yeah, and we have the building consultant who we have employed to advise us in terms of what relief we need.
Yeah, if you don't
As
meet
far as view or aesthetics, that's not zoning or building.
I'm not concerned about view aesthetics. My concerns are generally about whether or not you could put this deck in the current footprint. If you could extend that up.
This
to the top.
originated with the fire department, and then the fire department and the building department came up, and the building department made a determination, as Ted outlined to you, that would be acceptable, notwithstanding what the fire department concern was.
Is that in writing?
Excuse me?
Is that in writing?
Well, I'll ask the building consultant. All I can tell you is that ultimately that I know what the building department determined. I haven't seen the notes. I'm not privy to the notes, but I have spoken with the inspector. There've been 3 or 4 inspectors. So let me just say this. The current zoning ordinance says you have, after a fire, you have 3 years to restore.
Yeah.
To what?
Fire happened a year ago.
To the originals.
And if you look at the field card, you'll see the first permit for fire damage and repairs is, I think, May of 24, I believe it's on there. So we've been working diligently until we ran into this problem. And it was suggested to us by the building department that this would give them comfort and relief if we could get approval for that variance with respect to the rear. And so we'll give you the plan that takes the existing proposal, puts it on the plot plan, shows you where the parking is, gives you the dimensions.
Yeah, and I guess.
I just can't I don't know in terms of when the next meeting is, whether we can have it by then, but I'll try.
We just want to make sure too, what is shown, proposed, relative to that is shown that way. And then the board can decide if you're overextending, that's up to the board what you're.
Yeah,
I do see the spiral staircases coming down, and I see a lot of other deck that extend well beyond away from where those staircases come down. Take it for what it's worth.
Well, obviously, if there's self-help, then we'll engage in that. But I think we're trying to do what we were told by the various departments when they review the plans.
Yeah, they won't tell you how to design it. They'll just say you need to provide an egress.
Well, sounds like that was the issue, was that it wasn't what was proposed. Is that's true?
Right. What's being built isn't what was proposed, or isn't in accordance to the building permit. So are you going to build to what's in the building permit? You're going to get a new building permit, and are you proposing something new? And we want to see what you're proposing.
I'm relying on the professionals that were hired, the architect, the building code consultant.
Well, the builder has to follow what the architect did, and it sounds like that's not happening. So
I'll make certain that the 2 of them speak in terms of but we get one plan to show you what they arrived at.
Okay.
I just don't, I'd be guessing as to how long, I don't know.
So our next meeting is what, March?
March 3rd and March 17th.
So which?
February 17th.
When you?
You can't do by February then.
I don't know, I can't really answer that, I'm saying that.
How much time do you think you need? You want to go to March?
Did you say March 3rd?
Yeah.
Why don't we say that at least gives us time.
Okay, so you're gonna go back and get your ducks in a row, submit what?
I'm gonna provide you with what you say you need.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we mentioned that?
Well, the meter.
Button and impervious.
Impervious, meters impervious.
Yeah. Okay.
I think once we have the new stuff, there'll probably be new things that we have questions on, but it's just hard, it's so hard. We don't even know what we're voting on right now.
If you have new plans, submit them.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, submit it to us so we have
Yeah,
a
as soon
chance
as we have them, I'll get it to you.
before the meeting.
Oh, yeah, I have it. That's why I thought to make March here would be a better.
Okay.
Thank
I think your client has a question. You know.
What does that mean for us then? In other words, if they resubmit a whole new
stuff.
Well, we just,
The way it is right now, I mean, with the, because this is what I'm kind of a little thrown off about. You folks work for City Hall, right?
No.
No, you don't. You know, I'm thinking to myself, you're here at City Hall. This is where they have the dimensions on record.
yeah, we just don't have enough information right now. What was submitted to us in our file, like, we don't,
Nice.
right.
Yeah, this is 30. If they resubmitted for 30, what's that mean for us? Do we have to come back and fight that, even though it's legitimate on their
There'll
end?
be another hearing.
Well,
It sounds like on March 3rd, if you like.
Will we be noticed on that, or is it just?
we're notifying you now.
Butters will be notified and the whole process will run past the city clerks.
March 30th, what's that?
That's going to be one of the requirements.
So, I hear
2.5 stories.
Stories.
But it is a single family.
so,
Yeah.
You ready?
yeah, so we need a motion, excuse me. We need a motion to, I'll entertain a motion to extend this to March 3rd.
I can second that.
You made the motion.
I'll take,
Second, sorry.
She made it, no, she made it. Somebody else.
Want to sit back and watch?
Yes, to continue.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care, thank you.
Christopher, March 3rd.
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez, March 3rd.
Yes, to continue.
Member Matthew.
yes, to continue.
Yes, to continue March 3rd.
Yeah.
We're going to be in further joining.
Consistent process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need your photographs back, sir?
That's like it's pro.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
I was sure we were gonna get a bit.
Looking for input.
Yeah.
Stairs, long stairs.
You see it, please?
What? Buckley?
Yeah, the proposed plot plan of
Yeah.
showing the proposed work relative to property lines.
And clarity on the meters.
Yeah. Did we say parking?
Yes. Was submitted permits, right?
Yeah.
The plan that was submitted for a permit.
What?
What was submitted, like, for, on the original permit?
There's one.
Yeah, if you can throw that in the file, send a copy to us.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. You gotta close the meeting.
Oh,
You gotta close the meeting.
Can we speak?
You gotta
Hold on, let's close the meeting.
meeting. Okay, do I have a motion to
So
close the meeting? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Now.